And good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and work on our homework tonight. And let's see, I've got all the odd ones. We're doing multiplication for inequalities. Let's do number 23 first. First of all, if I'm multiplying by -7, I have to divide by -7 to get y by itself. Whatever I divide from one side, I divide from the other. But remember, the minute I divide by a negative number, I have to turn my inequality symbol around. And now we have 35 divided by -7, which will give me -5. So y is greater than -5. Remember, whenever we divide or multiply by a negative number, in other words, whenever we see a negative number next to our variable, we're going to switch that inequality symbol around. Let's do number 25 now. This time I don't have a negative number next to my variable. So I'm just going to divide that 12 out from my 12p, which leaves me p. Whatever I do to one side, I do the other. And -72 divided by p. Remember, I get to keep my symbol the same. Let's see, that's going to be 6. So since it's a negative number divided by a positive number, it'll be -6. All right, number 27. This time I got y over 5 is greater than -8, or -8 is less than y over 5. I'm dividing over here, so I have to multiply by 5 over 1. Notice it is not a negative number that I'm dividing by, so I'll multiply -8 by 5 over 1. -8 times -5 is -40. And my symbol gets to stay the same because I'm not multiplying by a negative number. So 40 is less than y. All right, now we're going to go on to number 29. It says we're going to graph it after we solve it. Once again, I got a negative number with my variable, that -3. So I'm going to divide -3, but before I do anything, I'm going to switch that inequality symbol around. Whatever I divide from one side, I divide from the other. And let's see, -39 divided by -3, well, that w is going to be greater than, well, I'm going to say that is 13. And to put it on my number line, I realize that if I have a number line, I'm going to put 13 on it. And then I have to realize w is bigger than 13. So my line's going to go in that direction. And I know that I've got no line underneath there saying that it includes 13. So that means all this going on this side of my inequality, that side gets shaded in. So let's see, we're going to number 31 now. This time I'm t divided by -2. Well, I'm going to multiply by -2 over 1. Right? And if I do that, I'm going to do that because I have a 1 in front of this t, so that's really 1 over -t. And I want t to stay there, right? So I don't include t into my number that I'm going to multiply in it. Okay? Now I have the reciprocal, which is -2 over 1. When I multiply across now, well, that gets eliminated, and that gets eliminated, which leaves me 1, and I have 1t. But whatever I multiplied to one side, I had to multiply to the other. So over here I have -2 over 1 times 10. And that's going to give me a -20. Now remember, we multiplied by a -2. That means I have to turn my symbol around. And negative 20 is greater than t. And if I was to make my line, I would put negative 20. I realize since it has an equal sign to it, right, a greater than or equal, that means I have to shade in my dot. And t is smaller than negative 20, so everything smaller than negative 20 is my answer. All right, let's go on and go to number 33. And that says the product says write an inequality for each sentence, then solve the inequality. The product of a number and 4, well, a number is going to be x, right? We don't know what that is. And 4 is at least negative 12. When I see the word at least, I have to think, what does that mean? Well, let's do some deduction here. If I was to put a less than sign and say negative 12 was over here, all right, and if said, is this number at least this number? Let's think about that. No, this means it's less than this number. Well, some might say, well, Mr. Mendes, put that equal sign under there. Well, now it is what? It is that number or less. But this says at least. So it isn't going to be less than or equal to. So let's try the other way. It's definitely not going to be greater than, because it says at least that. That means it includes this. So it would have to be greater than or equal to. Whatever this is going to be, it will be at least this or more. All right? So what is going to be my solution? Well, I have to divide 4 from both sides. And my solution is going to be x. There's no negative sign there, so it's greater than or equal to negative 3, because negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. And I think that's all we have today. So good luck.